Now, it's a term you may have heard in reference to dating, ghosting. But have you ever ghosted a potential employer? You've not turned up to a job interview or not fancied it?
No. Well, a new report has revealed 79% of Generation Z and Millennials have admitted to ghosting a future employer by not showing up at their interview or even not rocking up to their first day of work. Cocky.
Wow. Yeah.
Or stupid.
Today, a new report has revealed more young people than ever are blaming their mental health to take days off work as well.
OK, co-founder of Intergenerational Foundation, that's Angus Hanton. Good morning, Angus. And there we have broadcasting legend, a man never has an opinion. But anyway, Mike Parry joining us both there. So, Mike, could you ever imagine, I mean, you and I, same generation, we know how valuable jobs are. I can't think, mate, I'm always grateful to get a job.
Well, look, I'm a gentleman entering early middle age, and I don't want to start banging the drum and going on about I got my first job when I was 13, as a newspaper delivery boy, and I've had half a dozen jobs between then and going to university, and I've worked every day since because I wanted to. But I'm afraid we have to accept that the modern generation do not always see work as a lifestyle which attracts them. I know this because I've spoken to young people who say, why would I want to get up in the morning at 5 o'clock and go out to work and come back at 6 o'clock at night? That's not the way to run your life. And I think they're aided and abetted in that sort of feeling by a very generous welfare system in this country, but also parents who are too touchy-feely. Older people who have a responsibility to guide younger people through life are far too keen and far too able to say to them, it's not your fault. Oh, don't worry, darling. Or are you depressed and all that? Now, I also think that social media has a huge part to play in this because people want to get rich quick. Young girls of Generation Z, Millennials, want instant gratification through social media. And I've met a lot of young men who are still opening up their laptop every day and hoping to discover, the magic formula to bring in the millions of pounds like Facebook or something like that, who simply aren't prepared to put in the hard work over not just years, but decades to establish their role in life.
So, Angus, what do you say to all of that? That there's a level of entitlement, Mike thinks, and perhaps we're mollycoddling the young too much?
I don't think there's evidence for that. I think what we've got is a generation that works really hard. Many of them have two jobs. Perhaps in relation to Mike's comment about getting up at 5 in the morning, perhaps the younger generation are more interested in working smart rather than working long hours. But the other thing is we've loaded so much onto them. A lot of them have very long commutes because housing is so expensive near to where they want to work. Most of them we've all been through the COVID crisis, but they've done so at a time that was more critical for them. It was more difficult for their education. I'm really not at all sure that they're mollycoddled. We try to do what we can for our children, but I think they're a very hardworking generation, and I think they've had a very raw deal from the older generation, from us baby boomers, and they're quite aware of that.
But Angus,
what they can do about it.
When you say you're not sure the evidence is there, I mean, this report found 79% of Gen Z and Millennials have admitted ghosting an employer or not turning up for their first day of work. I mean, that's shocking to me.
Well, it'd be interesting to know what percentage of the older generation have done comparable things. I mean, we humans are not altogether. We're not always reliable about everything, and there are different sort of work cultures. I think most younger people are very reliable. And what they're saying is not that they normally do this, but that they have done this at least once in their life. Well, there may well have been a good reason for that, some sort of personal crisis or whatever. So I don't think it's at all fair to say that younger generations are less reliable.
No, I don't know, Mike. Something's changed. Angus is saying there that, we have saddled them with commuting and whatever. But you had commuting. I had commuting. I had a milk round before I went to a job before. Yeah. I then worked on TV and did the tea time news, and then would work in a bar that evening. I'd serve them up the news, and then I'd serve them up pints afterwards. I really don't get it. What I'm getting to, Mike, is maybe my need was better. Maybe my drive to get on in the world was stronger. Maybe the bank of mum and dad looks after too many youngsters today.
Yeah, no, that could well be it. There's 9.25 million people economically inactive in this country, right? And that in itself is such a horrifying figure. Why should young people say, well, why can't I be part of that part of society rather than the working part of society? Because the 9.25 million seem to do all right. They can go to the pub every day. They can spend their welfare benefits money. I'm not knocking people who are out of work. I'm just saying we have a huge welfare budget. At my local pub, and you know, Em, and I don't spend much time in my local pub, but the landlady there tells me all the time, I've got 2 new youngsters starting tomorrow, and they simply don't turn up. Or we've had this experience, they've turned up, and after about 5 hours of the first shift have decided this is not for me. There is an issue here, I think, with young women, because in one of these reports I noticed that the number of young women self-harming over the last decade has gone up considerably. And again, I think that's down to social media and young women wanting to instantly hit the heights of fame or try and make themselves a success. But when they then relate to people, their problems, they feel depressed, they feel they're not winning. Unfortunately, they're then given medication. Instead of being given, you know, a sensible adult talking to. Life isn't always fair. You know, you don't always get it first time in life. Keep trying. And, you know, a lot of adults allow them just to take the avenue of it's mental health problems. I'm not knocking mental health. Some people do have mental health problems. But I think the bar has been lowered considerably to the level where mental health now can be confused with other things.
OK, well, a final thought from you, Angus, because I know that you just have concerns that the way we talk about young people, we almost other them a little bit. And in actual fact, we should try to find what we have in common and support generations and try and find a positive out of all of this. Give us a positive to end on, if you will.
Well, I'm agreeing with that negative. I mean, there's a danger that we're treating them as victims and we're blaming the victims. We ought to be treating them as a generation that we should cherish and encourage. And yeah, Mike's right. There are issues about how we deal with mental health. But I think the younger generation are extremely smart, extremely positive. And my experience of them has been that they're constantly teaching us how to use technology and how to interact differently and inventing new words that are really useful. I've got only admiration for the younger generation.
Thank you, Angus. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.